Hey, what's up, YouTube fans? So, what I wanted to talk about in this video is something that interests me, right? Is how all of scientific knowledge that us humans have accumulated, right, in entirety, right, is not particularly informative about objective reality as a whole, right? Like reality as a whole, not just like the portion that we find ourselves in, but reality as a whole. It's not so much informative of that, so much as it's informative of what happens to be true of the portion of reality that we find ourselves in, right? Because so the whole observable universe, right? The entire observable portion of the universe, right, may be only a tiny, tiny little part of the entire cosmos as a whole, right? The entire reality as a whole. It likely is only a small portion. We don't actually know that the farthest we can see is the farthest there is, right? And so, and we don't even know that other areas, like that other universes, which there may be other universes. We don't even know that other universes would have the same laws of nature as our universe, right? We don't even know that it would be the same in other universes, right? And there are some cosmological models in which every possible occurrence happens infinite times over in various places within the cosmos, right? And so, what that would mean then, right, is anything you observe to happen, right, is not actually evidence that that thing occurs at a like more times within the cosmos than will be expected if you hadn't observed that to happen, right? So like the particular sequence of events that happened in your day-to-day that you observed, the fact that you observed it happen that particular way is not actually evidence that that sequence of events played out like more times within the cosmos than the amount of times that you should expect that it would have before you had observed it happen today, right? Because it may be the case that every possible scenario plays out infinite times over, right? And so it's not actually evidence as to the number of times that sequence of events has occurred within the cosmos as a whole. It could more so be just evidence as to which particular region of the cosmos you happen to find yourselves in, right? So what we observe, right, is not so much indicative of what's true of the whole reality, right, as much as it's more so indicative of which portion of reality do we find ourselves in, right? And also worth noting, something I talk about a lot is the observer bias, that there are certain things which increase the likelihood of there being observers that could find themselves in a particular spot within the cosmos, right? Therefore, meaning that observers should expect to find themselves somewhere where it is that way, even if it wouldn't be expected to be that way in most places within the cosmos, right? And so like with the origination of life, right? observers most likely could only find themselves on a planet where there is life, right? So therefore, our observation that life came to exist on Earth is not in of itself evidence that life is at all common, right, within the cosmos as a whole. It could be extraordinarily rare, right? It very likely is. And so all of scientific knowledge that humans have collected in entirety, right, hardly tells us much anything necessarily about the whole reality. It more so tells us about what is true of the portion of reality that we find ourselves in. Which portion do we find ourselves in, right? And so it's more so uncovering subjective truth than of uncovering the objective ultimate reality, right? All right, that's all for now. See you guys.